Now let's look at the mask. What are the questions about that? What do you feel should exist in your mask or your showcase for others to see in order for them to respect, love, accept, and desire you? Which of these burden, bore, or restrict you the most? You see, there may be many aspects in our mask which are us, that I believe that I should be a kind person, but I am a kind person, and it doesn't cost me any energy to be a kind person. So that's not a problem. So we're looking for the aspects of our mask which tire us, that I'm making an effort to be kind. I'm making an effort to say yes. I'm not doing what I really feel, what I really think. So it's not a problem if there are parts of our mask which we believe we must have but are natural to us. We're not concerned about those natural qualities. Okay? Number 3. What are the beliefs which make you maintain these despite the energy waste or self-repression? So what do I believe which makes me continue trying to appear as something which I am not? What do I believe which makes me do this? 4. What are the experiences or messages from the past that have led you to these convictions? What have I experienced in the past which causes me to believe that it's just that I must be this way? One of the most common, I guess the two most common masks are, I am strong and I don't need any help. Many people put on the role of the strong person. Or I'm not hurt when I'm really hurting, you know. The strong person who's not hurt. And the other is the yes person. Yes, but I really don't want to, you know. So these are the two main masks that burden us, that tire us in life. Okay, so we may want to look as to where we're not sharing our pain or sharing our fear or our weakness, and where we are not sharing the fact that there are some things we do not like to do, we prefer not to do. There may be many other things, but these are the most popular in our masks. Okay? And the 5th question is, what do you want to do about your mask? Okay, this is something I'd like you to try to answer these questions for next week. Observe yourselves during the week and see what is coming up that you're not sharing, and what is it that you're trying to put on in life, because it is tiring. It is extremely tiring. Now, there's another factor here. It requires energy for us to keep those feelings which are not expressing under control. It's as if, you know, if a piece of wood, a splinter, gets into your skin, the first thing that your body does is to surround it and create a cyst around it so that its presence will not affect the rest of the body. So the first thing our energy body needs to do, when I have the emotion of fear or of anger or of hurt, is to surround it by an energy field so that I'm not experiencing it, so that I can focus on my work, so that I can function in the world. I mean, if we didn't do this, we would be unable to function, because we would be like little children who are always crying, always being angry, unable to function. So naturally, we created this mechanism of encompassing these feelings in these energy fields. But this requires a continual amount of energy, and this eventually leads to psychosomatic illness. So it starts hitting on my intestines, and I have colitis, or I start having headaches, or I start having arthritis, or rheumatism, or even cancer, because all of my energy is going to maintaining this emotional balance by suppressing and ignoring feelings that are within me. And that lowers the effectiveness of my immune system, of my defense system. So one result of this is that our energy is lowered, and this is what we experience when we do this catharsis work, how much more energy we have afterwards. When we realize that how much energy it requires to ignore our pain and to ignore our fear or ignore our energy. It's like having, we're having a war over here and we're having a war over here. I have to keep all of this in place so that I can function in the world. Whereas by doing some catharsis and letting that come out, then I no longer need to expend any energy in keeping that in place because it's freed. So one result is the loss of energy. Another result is the psychosomatic illness. A third result is that we become hypersensitive to certain stimuli which create emotional mechanisms within us without being able to understand why. Why am I so upset about what this person said? Logically, I should not be upset. But what we're unaware of is that we have an unhealed wound. And that when you touch an unhealed wound, it hurts. When you touch healed skin, it does not hurt. You see? So we're not allowing this wound cannot heal until it comes into the light of day. As long as it's covered up, it's going to fester. So this wound has to be brought up to the surface in order to be healed. It may be painful to bring it up to the surface. And I may not enjoy the idea of dealing with this emotion. But there's no logical alternative. I mean, it's like saying, yes, it's like saying, I don't want to deal with my subconscious because it makes me suffer. And this is like saying, I know there's a fire in my bedroom, but I don't want to have anything to do with it. I'm just going to live in the living room. Yeah, but that fire is gradually going to go into the hallway, and eventually it's going to come into the living room. And suddenly I'm going to be ill. And it's always going to come into the living room when someone touches me in that place. When someone does something which reminds me, subconsciously, of the original event, which caused the pain, or caused the anger, or caused the fear. Okay? So we become overly sensitive. Also, it becomes very difficult to create close love relationships, because whenever anyone touches our buttons, we react through these emotional mechanisms, and we're not able to control ourselves. That is, we are robots who have been programmed by these experiences in the past, and we have no control because the mechanisms which are causing us to react are not conscious. And afterwards we wonder, well, why was I giving so much importance to these words or to this action? I'm not in danger. My self-worth is not in danger here. So, but then the reason I can't solve the problem is because the problem is not in the conscious mind. It's in the subconscious. And I have no idea what it is. When I myself, and many people who have worked with me, have realized after 20 years and 25 years what it was. Sometimes these things takes many years of inner work for them to come up and for us to realize what exactly happened at what age, which causes us to be so sensitive or so attached to a certain kind of behavior or situation. So what are we interested in doing in the catharsis and in the healing of the subconscious? First of all, we want to gradually come in contact with the subconscious and with its contents. With any pain that is there, with any fear, any guilt. I neglected to mention guilt. Guilt is also a very powerful emotion in the subconscious which affects us. Any anger. I always say that these are the four main things we're looking for: anger, fear, hurt, and guilt. Other emotions also, but these are the main ones. The second is to accept the part of ourselves which feels this way. Because what we tend to do is we tend to reject that part of ourselves. The first step is coming in contact with it, and the second step is accepting it. Accept that there is a part of myself which fears. It's okay. Accept that there's a part of myself which is angry. It's okay. Okay? So that's the second step. The third step is to express it. Now, this is a process which can take many forms. We can express it, first of all, in emotional ways such as crying, or even laughing, or beating a pillow, or any kind of movement, or making any kind of sounds, any kind of words or through shouting, anything that comes to us. So one way is through various types of emotional expression. Another way, which is easier in the beginning, is to write what we are feeling. Many people feel more safe. They feel safer with writing than they do with crying or hitting a pillow. So we could write about the feelings. Another way is to express them creatively through dance, through drawing or painting, through poetry, through theater. So in some way express those feelings in some creative way. Now, there is a process in which we call the process of catharsis, which works more on an energy level. And what is that? I relax and I become aware of the part of my body in which this emotion is stored. Now that emotion is attached or has gathered around it a certain amount of energy which has the quality of that emotion. And so what do? I allow that energy to expand, and I allow that feeling to expand as I observe the phenomena which are created by its movement. Now usually this starts somewhere in the abdomen, where we keep most of our emotional tension. It begins to flow up, becomes a pain in the chest, and then a knot in the throat, and then a headache, and then eventually flows out through the top of the head. It could also flow out through the arms or through the hands, especially through movement. And this is why we use dance quite a bit in our catharsis work. So the whole idea is doing the opposite of deep relaxation. In deep relaxation, we would seek to remove ourselves from any feelings or from any thoughts, whereas the catharsis technique is to go into any feelings and allow them to expand and to fill my being so that I stop being an observer of that and become a vehicle for its expression.